Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. As we are entering a new year, I always like to reflect on everything that happened in the past year to see what lessons that I can learn. So in this video I want to go over 9 lessons that I can take from last year. Let's dive right in. The first lesson I'm taking from last year is that sometimes you just have to make a decision and go with it. So when in the beginning of the year a friend of mine rented a house in Lagos, the south of Portugal, and he invited me to come over there. I was debating if I wanted to go there or not. And with people around me telling me that I shouldn't because of the current international climate, let's say, I really had a hard time making a decision to go there. So after debating it for a couple of days, I just went with it and took a flight to the south of Portugal. It ended up being one of the best decisions of the last year because I had the greatest time there, and the idea of being 1 month in Portugal ended up with me being abroad for almost half a year. And it also was one of the most productive months in the last year for me. This shows that even though something might not seem like the best idea at first, sometimes you just have to go with it and you will grow in the process. If you always stay within your comfort zone, then probably you're not going to learn very much from that. The second one also has to do with this YouTube channel. And that is, sometimes it's better to be consistent than to go after those big goals. Let me explain. When I started this YouTube channel again, or started creating content for this channel again, at first I set these big goals for myself. Like, for example, having 500 subscribers by the end of the year, something that didn't happen, by the way. But in the end, it's better to be consistent than have those big goals. Because those big goals, you don't have a lot of influence on them. Like, you can create the best content you want, but in the end, it's the market who will decide if you get those subscribers or not. So the better thing to do is being consistent. So when I started creating this content again, I promised myself that I would make 1 video each week. And that's eventually what I did until the last of the year, and I took off for the holidays. But being consistent will learn you how to create these videos. You will have the chance to get better with each video, and it's better to not look at those things like subscribers at first and just focus on the craft, focus on what you are making, focus on finding your voice in these videos, for example, to stick with YouTube. But it's more important to just work towards your goals and be really fast. Like, this is also one of the mantras that Gary Vee always is saying, and that is macro speed, micro patience. At first, I didn't really get that, but it goes back to the same thing. Those big goals, you have time to reach them. The most important thing is that you have the micro speed, that you're consistently creating content, consistently learning from it, and there you can be really fast and you can try to make these little iterations for every single video. Just keep in mind, consistency is better than those big goals. I'll give you one last example that might help here. So we did a couple of challenges 2 years ago, and one of the challenges we did was reading more. We set a goal to read, I think it was 3 books in 1 month or 4 books in 1 month, and it was the biggest failure of all the challenges that we did for that year. We did 1 challenge each month. Maybe I'll make another video about that. But with this book challenge, I really learned that it's better to, for example, say, I will read for 30 minutes each day, than it is to say I will read 4 books in 1 month. Because reading for 30 minutes each day, that's easily achievable. It's something that you can take on in your routine, and every day you can do your reading. But having to read these 4 books, it's much easier to put off, and in the end, just forget about that goal altogether. So you'll say, I'll reach Saturday afternoon or Sunday evening, but in the end, something comes up and you're not reading at all. So consistency over those big goals. The third one goes a little bit together with the previous one, and that's improvement is better than perfection. Also something that I learned by creating these videos. The reason why this video is a little bit late, because in the end I wasn't really thinking of taking the holidays off. Every time I was writing the ideas for these videos, writing the little scripts I do for them, I thought no, this isn't good enough. I can't record this. I can't put this on YouTube, I can't put this on the internet. This is not working for me. Then I had to remember that I just need to make these videos. They don't need to be perfect. The people who want to watch them will watch them. And if it's not the best video ever, Who really cares? I'm doing this as a learning process for myself, so if the next video is better, that's already an improvement and I am achieving my goal with that alone. So instead of using perfection as an excuse to not do something, just do it. Don't care what other people think about it. If it's a goal of yours, if it's something that you want to do, if it's something that you want to get better at, you just have to do it until you get good at it. Then for the fourth lesson, creating these videos taught me a lot of things, but it's batching similar tasks together. So to be able to create these videos on a weekly basis, I try to batch the ideation of these videos, the scripting of these videos, the research of these videos. I try to batch them at the same time. So for example, I say next Wednesday, I will be researching and scripting 4 new videos. The next week, I will set up my camera setup here and I record these 4 videos. So by batching these tasks, you can get way more efficient because setting this entire thing up, having the lighting ready, having the camera ready, testing the audio, seeing that everything is fine, it takes some time. And if I had to do this for every single video, it would take up a lot of time, and it's way better to just patch it together, have everything ready, record 4 videos, and then the next time you can do the same thing for your research and your scripting. It's probably one of the reasons why I have been able to keep up with this schedule of posting weekly videos on YouTube. The fifth lesson is delegating stuff whenever you can without losing too much of the quality. We only have so much time in a day, and some things you really want to do yourself. Like for example, if I have to research these videos, I really want my voice in there, so it's not something that I can outsource because I like to get better at storytelling. I like to get better at making these ideas into interesting stories, into interesting videos, but that is something that I have to do on my own. Well, for example, the editing for these videos specifically, like sometimes you also need to do the editing yourself because your story will come together in your editing. For example, with the vlogs that I did in New York, one of those vlogs was shot and edited by myself because the story really came together in the edit. But other tasks, for example, the editing of these videos, you can outsource these, and in this case, I will even have better quality by outsourcing them than doing it myself, because the people I am outsourcing it to, my editor, he's way better at doing graphics, which you will see a lot in these videos, and which makes them more interesting. Whereas if it was just about the story itself, I could probably do the editing because I know the story that I want to tell. I have the story in my head already, and that goes for like a lot of things. The same thing, for example, my administration is something that I could outsource. Right now, I'm not outsourcing that. I have set up a lot of automations to make sure that it's not taking as much time as it used to, but I will probably outsource that at some point as well, because administration, it's like a set task, it has set procedures. Basically anyone can be taught how to do the administration for my companies. And by freeing up this time from your own schedule, you can focus on the things that you really like to do. For example, getting better at storytelling, researching new marketing strategies and techniques, or ideating campaigns for my new e-commerce business. Lesson number 6, and that ties really well together with the previous lesson. When you are working with external people, the broader that their responsibilities will be, the harder it will be for you to onboard them in your company. So when you are delegating tasks or you are outsourcing tasks to contractors, it's better to have very specific tasks than to have a more broader responsibility for that person. Let's stick to the example of the videos here. For the editing of the videos, I am outsourcing it for a couple of months already, and this works really well because it is a set procedure. Like, I have written down an entire procedure for how these videos need to be edited. It has a process. But for example, if I would say I would outsource the entire creation of these videos on YouTube, so the research, the script writing, maybe even someone to record these, then also have an editor, so basically the entire process, it will be a lot harder to do because this person won't make these videos the same way as you would do it yourself. And if you have a single task, then you can easily explain to someone like how they should handle it or how you like things to be. But if it's like a broader spectrum of things, it will be way harder to onboard people on this task. Lesson number 7, be less distracted by technology. This is something that I learned while I was in Lagos in the beginning of the year. And at that time I was reading the book, let me see if I have it here. At the time I was reading this book by Cal Newport, Deep Work, and it is all about staying focused in a distracted world. So when I was reading this book, I took a couple of tips from it, and one of the tips, for example, is when you are doing focused work, close down your email, get your phone out of reach, and really be able to focus on that task. Sometimes it even goes as far as just like disconnecting from the internet and focusing on that single thing that you need to do. Not having my phone within reach is definitely one of them. Another thing that I did is I bought the Remarkable 2, which I did a video about. I will link it right here or here. I always forget, but it will be up here. The Remarkable is basically an offline device. It's an e-ink tablet, so you can write on it, you can have it on your desk, and you can keep it on the entire day. So it's basically like just having a paper with your notes on your desk, and not having these distractions from technology when you really want to focus on something is really great. Another thing, for example, is for the weekend, I always have my papers on paper. So instead of reading the paper digitally, I will read them on paper during the weekend, because I really like to just sit down with a cup of coffee and catch up on the news for that week. Lesson number 8 that I identified is when I write down my tasks on paper and then cross them out throughout the day, this really gets me into flow. I do have my digital systems for project management, like Asana and Things. Things is mainly for all my private to-dos. Asana is mainly for everything that has to do with teamwork. And while I have these systems in place, and these systems do make sure that I know what to do each day and that I don't forget about anything, every evening I will sit down and I will go through my tasks that are teed up for the next day. At that time, I will take my Remarkable and I will write a physical to-do list on the Remarkable, and that will be my list to work towards the next day. All these tasks will be in order, so I know exactly what I will need to do at what time. And by going through this list and checking them off, I really noticed that I can be really focused, I can really get into flow, and it's something that I will definitely be doing more in the future. Lesson number 9, which goes really to me personally, is although I would identify as an introvert, I noticed that I really need people around me to be the best version of myself, to be focused, to be happy, to enjoy everything. And I heard this in a podcast from Tim Ferriss the other day, where he was explaining that he's also an introvert, he would identify as an introvert, but he noticed that when he's with friends, and he tends to do these hikes every now and then, and they will do like multi-day hikes. He says like, I'm hiking with those people for 10 hours a day, and although we don't talk a lot during those hikes, like even not talking at all, it does feel great to have those people around me and basically be on that same mission. And I think I noticed the same thing when I was in Lagos in the beginning of the year. Although most of the time I was just working on my own in my room, it was nice to have all these people around me. Basically know that there are people around you. Like at some points during the day, you will do things together, but like for most of the time, you will just be sitting there working. I do feel that it's better than when I'm working just at home, like here in my office, with no one basically around me. It's also one of the reasons why I like to go to coffee shops every now and then to sit down there and work, because like although I'm not talking to anyone there, I do feel that I'm more productive when there are people around me and there is like a little bit of noise around me, I guess. So those were the 9 lessons that I took from last year. I'm very curious to learn, do you do these kinds of reviews of your year to see like what was great about last year, what was not so great about the year, and then also see what you can change in the coming year to really take your lessons from the past year and make the new year even better, which is always one of my goals. Like the #1 goal I have each year is to make it the best year ever. And so far, this has worked out pretty great, and I think these reviews are definitely part of it. So if you haven't done this yet, try to do a year in review. Are there any lessons that you took from your past year? Anything interesting that you can share with us? Like, let us know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.